Hey everyone, in this video I'm going to share with you 9 different things that contribute to gut dysbiosis that you may not be aware of. And number 1 is actually birth route. So this means vaginal versus C-section. And this is something that you don't have control over unless you're a parent bringing a baby into the world, and sometimes you literally don't have control over it because of many different reasons. So what they found in a UK study of 600 babies is that babies born via C-section versus vaginally had more of this type of bacteria that's found in a hospital setting that's responsible for infections, Klebsiella and Enterococcus. So those bacteria are less symbiotic and they're not considered very helpful bacteria in those large quantities that they found in those babies' microbiomes. So just something to keep in mind, because in the vaginal birth, the baby is exposed to the vaginal flora of the mom, which if the mom's vaginal flora is imbalanced, the baby is also going to pick up some of that imbalance as well. Thankfully, there's a company called Tiny Health that is offering testing for babies' gut microbiomes. If you're concerned that your baby has a gut microbiome that needs a little bit of support and has gut dysbiosis, Tiny Health offers mess-free stool testing for your baby, and it also offers adult testing too. So you can get your GI mapped and your baby's GI mapped so you can find an actionable plan to move in the right direction if you're just not sure, because we can't understand what we don't know. So that's where Tiny Health comes in. If you want to get your baby's gut health tested, and also your own if you're a mom, or if you're a woman trying to conceive, getting ready to have a baby, wanting to become pregnant, you can get this gut microbiome test to map out your microbiome and see where there's some room for improvement before you conceive and become pregnant. So you can maybe make a little bit of progress with your gut microbiome and vaginal flora before your baby gets ready to be born into the world. Results can be taken for small children ages 0 to 3, basically in the first 1,000 days of life, and they provide markers on how their metabolic health is, allergies, eczema, asthma. Those things are all provided in a profile that comes to you in the mail 4 to 6 weeks after you send the sample. So if you're interested in getting your gut mapped, you can find the link in the description box below and get 20% off your order. The second one is infant formula method. So similar to birth route, a lot of times moms, they don't have complete control over breast milk supply. Sometimes you just don't have control whether or not your baby gets breastfed, and that is a reality. But the science shows that babies that are fed breast milk in the first 7 days of life get more of a bacteria called lactic acid bacteria, particularly Bifidobacterium, which helps coat the small intestine and helps the baby's small intestine be healthy, resistant to harmful microbes, and reduces risk of illness, allergies, eczema, and the like. So breast milk actually helps babies get a head start in their bacterial population really early on. Number 3 is a sterile environment, and this is actually might be a surprise to many because hand sanitizer is great, Lysol and these, disinfectant wipes are great, right? But humans actually used to eat dirt to train their immune systems to recognize and defend against invaders. So interestingly enough, kids that grow up on farms around animals, hay, dirt, like kind of that sort of environment, they have lower rates of allergies, eczema, and asthma because their immune systems are trained early on that this isn't a threat to me. So it's very interesting that these things can train our immune system from an early age. Number 4 is artificial sweeteners and sugars. So when sugar is consumed in large amounts, a bacterial species called Bacteroidetes, it decreases. And this bacteria is actually responsible for helping defend the gut wall mucus lining. So inside my book, I talk a lot about the mucus layer in the gut helps protect the gut lining from invaders, things that shouldn't be getting through. And so if you diminish the bacteria that helps maintain that mucus layer, that is actually going to promote worse gut health. So we don't want to do that. So maybe sugar doesn't directly make you unhealthy, but it can affect your gut microbiome. And then, it kind of does the domino effect. Like it affects one thing that affects the other. Additionally, a lot of sugar can encourage prediabetes, insulin resistance. I talked about that in a couple weeks ago video. They communicate to each other, and also it's kind of like they worsen the body's health together at the same time. So you really want to be swapping your sugar out, and it's not like we need to eliminate sweet things. You can always sweeten something with a natural sweetener like honey, dates. I really prefer monk fruit and allulose to sweeten my recipes. I do use dates and honey a lot more than I used to when I was pre-diabetic, but I'm now in the practice of using sweeteners that don't impact my blood sugar at all, because I know that they don't harm my gut, and I know that they're also not spiking my blood sugar. And this is different for every single person. That's where you need to understand where you are individually, because it's not always the same for all of us. The artificial sweeteners, a lot of those things, our body doesn't recognize them, and there's not really a detox pathway or a metabolic pathway to process them. And the liver and the gut, there's not a path in place for them to be eliminated, so it's confusing to the body and can promote inflammation. Number 6 is medications. So medications such as proton pump inhibitors like pantoprazole, oral contraceptives, and also antibiotics can impact gut dysbiosis. So antibiotics, they don't discriminate when you take them. Yes, they're necessary at times, but the truth be told, antibiotics kill off good bacteria as well as the bad ones. So we have to reestablish the good flora when we take antibiotics by taking probiotics, by nurturing our gut so we can rebuild those good populations. Many people don't talk about it. Doctors won't give you probiotics usually. This is where it's important to take care of your gut and really be on top of it. Oral contraceptives have actually been studied to promote leaky gut and worsen markers in inflammatory bowel disease. They also diminish many different B vitamins and also magnesium. So keep that in mind if you're taking oral contraceptives. There's tons of videos out there of people that have gotten off of birth control and they've had to rebuild their gut health. They talk about their skin health and all the things that were impacted by the oral contraceptives. It's kind of crazy, because why take a medication that's going to do so much harm in the long run? It's crazy. This is a place where it's good to learn and understand how these meds affect your body. Proton pump inhibitors help reduce the amount of acid being secreted into the stomach and the gut lining. So this can actually help a lot of people in a short period of time, like in the hospital setting when your body's in fight or flight mode and you're secreting a lot of gastric acid. I've seen it prevent ulcers for people, but really we don't want to be on these medications long term, because we want to have a normalized acid production. People are under the assumption that if you have acid reflux, it's because there's too much acid, when sometimes people have acid reflux for many different reasons. And one of them is actually too low of acid. So that's actually something that happened to me. I had too low of acid and I needed to take medication, an herbal supplement, to help restore my acid, and I felt better. I didn't have as much acid reflux. Sometimes things aren't what they seem. So keep that in mind if you're somebody that's on these drugs. It can impact your ability to digest food, and also when you don't have enough acid, our stomach acid is very strong hydrochloric acid that helps kill off pathogens, and if you don't have enough of it, your body could be exposed to pathogens that could cause disease, get into your gut lining, and possibly into the body without you even being aware of it. Heavy metals is number 7. They occur naturally in our environment, and sometimes they end up getting in our body, but studies have started to show that gut microbes actually may help in reducing the heavy metals in our body. But if we overaccumulate them too much from heavy metal exposure from the environment, or lead, mercury, if we come into contact with a heavy metal of some kind, these things can impair our body's ability to detoxify, and you will run out of minerals because your body is using up so many of them to try to get those heavy metals out. So in that case, you might need to do some sort of detox protocol to normalize the levels of metals inside your body. You want to get the excess out so your body can do its job repairing everything else. I actually had this happen to me where I had a copper IUD. I shared about it in a vlog not too long ago, where I had too much copper and I started to lose hair. I started to get fatigued. I thought that something was going terribly wrong, worse than that, and I ended up taking a heavy metal detox, and I felt better in like one day. I know I like took the detox for like 2 months, but it affected my hormones, it affected my weight, it affected my skin, it affected my energy, and it affected my gut. It's kind of cool that I was able to go through that so I can tell you guys about it, but it was a nightmare, to be honest with you. And that's why I feel so strongly about making sure that you're taking care of all of these elements in a way that supports your gut and you're actually addressing them, because if you don't, you're not sure what stress you're putting on your gut that you could probably be doing something about. And then when it's time to like lose weight or improve your skin, you don't have to start from square one, or you don't have like a million of these things to tackle all at once. Number 8 is microplastics. Microplastics cause inflammation once they come in contact with the gut. We can't completely stay away from plastic, but there are ways to reduce your plastic intake by changing the containers that you're eating out of. Don't microwave in plastic. Try not to drink out of plastic water bottles. Reduce the amount of plastic your food comes in contact with to reduce the amount of plastic that goes inside that you can't even see because it's in microscopic particles. Our body doesn't recognize them, so it creates an inflammatory process to try to get it out. Pesticides is number 9. Just like I was mentioning earlier, pesticides and some of the herbicides that are on our food, they don't have a targeted pathway for elimination once inside the body. So our body has to go through an inflammatory process to neutralize them because it doesn't recognize it. So all of these things that your body doesn't recognize, it will impact the gut and it will promote some inflammatory processes in there. To reduce pesticides and herbicides in your life and what your gut comes in contact with, try to choose organic foods whenever possible because they have not been sprayed with pesticides or herbicides. And the way that you can, if you're not sure which foods are best to buy organic, the foods that you have to peel, like an orange or banana, those ones are less important to get organic. They're still important, everything's important. But if you are kind of like on a budget or it's not realistic for you and your family to have all organic, the ones that are most important to have organic are the ones that don't have any sort of husk or peel on them that, when you eat it, it's like, that's it. Like an apple. You don't peel an apple, you eat the skin. Spinach or lettuce, you eat the actual leaf. You don't have to peel anything off. Berries, things like that. Keep that in mind whenever you're choosing which things to get organic if you have to choose. Hey everyone, today we're going to be discussing inflammation and 7 ways that inflammation can really be sabotaging your progress with weight loss, gut health, and just generally overall. Inflammation is actually the root of all disease. When you think about anything like diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune conditions, you can understand that the first thing that happens in our body that goes wrong is from a source of inflammation. And so the gut is actually one of those places where inflammation can start to fester, chronic low-grade level. And it's really difficult sometimes to notice that happening to us at the beginning because it's very subtle, and then over time things compound when we start to become more inflamed and our gut becomes more leaky. Then we start to notice symptoms, and a lot of times we'll go to the doctor and okay, now you've been diagnosed with this disease and you're kind of like, where did this come from? Inflammation was the thing that really did set everything off and began all the dominoes falling down one after the other. Inflammation will do that first. The second one is inflammation can mess with our appetite hormones. Have you ever noticed when you're under stress or when you're going through a lot, our appetite is affected? You can either have a bigger appetite, feel like you're needing to eat more, feel like a craving for more food, or your appetite is suppressed. So this is leptin and ghrelin at play. We have certain appetite hormones that kind of help us understand when we are hungry and full, kind of tell us when we should eat, and those things actually can become really imbalanced. Inflammation is a culprit for imbalancing them. Dysregulation in those can actually result in us eating more than our body needs, meaning we can have an energy surplus. We may not lose weight because we're not actually in that deficit. Fat cells in overaccumulation release a chemical called adipokines, and this is inflammatory. So if you start to store a lot of fat and you have an excess and you become obese, this makes it so your body is actually releasing a lot more inflammatory chemicals, and it becomes a vicious cycle. In that sense, it's kind of like which came first, the chicken or the egg. The source of inflammation then we start accumulating fat, and then this fat becomes inflammatory, preventing our body from reaching this place of balance where it can disrupt that inflammation. Things can start simmering down. We do have to figure out how we can interrupt this pattern, and I'm going to review a few ways we can do that at the end of this video. Have you ever heard of the hormone cortisol? This is something that our body releases more of in a state of chronic inflammation. So again, we become inflamed and our body starts responding by releasing more cortisol. And then that hormone actually promotes fat storage. It wants to help promote fat storage because it's helping the body prepare for an emergency. Like, are we going to need to have this fuel for later? Do we need to keep some stored for a future emergency? And cortisol is one of those hormones that encourages the body to store fat. We want to have a balanced level of it by reducing our stress, by reducing our inflammation, and maintaining a place where our body is in balance on the internal level. But in this place where we're chronically inflamed, cortisol will spike more. Another thing that cortisol does that a lot of people are unaware of is it'll increase your cravings for higher fat, higher sugar foods, making it easier to go after those foods to kind of help yourself feel better. Number 5 is very important. Inflammation can alter the gut microbiota. We are aware that the gut microbiome is so intertwined in every single area of our health. So if we have this inflammation that's being stoked by having excess fat, excess cortisol coming around, we do have to understand that that is going to affect our gut microbiome, even if, okay, the inflammation originated in the gut because we have leaky gut from things that our lifestyle contains or foods that we're eating on a regular basis. You may not be surprised at the end of this video when I review gut health as one of those places where we're going to start to address this inflammation. It's also important to remember that if you continue to have chronic low-grade inflammation, it kind of continues to burn and will continue to affect our gut in a way that may actually prevent us from absorbing the nutrients that we're taking in from all the food that we're eating. We do get in there and start healing our gut. A lot of inflammation improves and we notice our health is improving no matter what we're doing because a lot of it originates from that gut level. And so that's why this is just kind of a foundational area that we cannot neglect. And we need to remember that if you can eat and live your life in a way that allows your gut to be healthy, you are going to be checking off so many boxes that you may not even, it's not going to be as complicated or as laborious or as hard work as maybe you're thinking, just because it covers so many areas, and that's the beautiful part about it. Number 6 is when we are inflamed, we don't have the energy that we need to continue exercising and doing things in our life that are going to promote health. So the foundational areas for our health, exercise, nutrition, what happens when we're inflamed is we just don't feel like doing it. And that can be a huge deterrent for actually being able to do the things that we need to do to address the inflammation in the first place. Now, as we go down this list of things, you can start to notice how many of them are actually a result of the inflammation and how the inflammation continues to perpetuate because of the fact that now we're in this vicious cycle, this feedback loop of I feel bad, so I don't have enough energy to take care of myself. And then, how are we going to interrupt that? How are we going to disrupt that? That becomes our next question. Number 7 is stress eating and emotional eating that can be promoted by inflammation. So in the state of inflammation, it's easier for the inside of our body to become stressed. And from there, we want to gravitate towards higher calorie, high sugar foods that induce this dopamine response that make us feel better. Therefore, we feel better and the stress in our minds is kind of abated in a way. So it drives emotional eating. It can drive us to kind of seek out more comfort foods that are richer in calories, and in some way, shape, or form, sometimes that's just not supportive to being able to lose weight or manage our weight effectively, and it makes it easier to gain weight because those foods are so dense in calories and nutrients that they oftentimes have more than what we would expect inside, and we end up eating quite a few calories, and that promotes a energy surplus, leading to weight gain in the long term also. I'm going to be reviewing 4 different things that you can start using in your daily life to help reduce inflammation and just allow your body to reach a place of balance. How to disrupt this cycle is what we really need to be focused on. So of course, a lot of it is going to come down to our diet and our lifestyle, namely nutrition, the status of our gut, what is going on inside of there, and then also our exercise and how much we're able to use exercise and allow our bodies to be counteracting the inflammation from anti-inflammatory chemicals that come from exercise. Diet rich in whole foods actually has a lot of antioxidants and things that combat inflammation at a cellular level, and a lot of nutrients that can help support the tissue to rebuild itself after a storm of inflammation has taken place. So then we come into the gut health part of it, and with our lifestyle, taking a lot of medications, we live under a lot of stress, things that disrupt the gut, diet, all the things that can help promote leakiness in the gut. We want to take those out, and we want to start encouraging our gut lining to heal, seal up, and have a good, diverse gut microbiome. If that is something that you need support with, check out the other videos on my channel to help review what it is that you can do next. If you're looking for the next steps, I have a lot of videos reviewing that on my channel, so I encourage you to go check those out. Strength training in particular is really supportive for reducing inflammation because of the myokines that were released from our muscle when we are doing muscle strengthening exercises, lifting weights, doing resistance work. Anything that's contracting your muscle and working to grow it is going to help support your body to reduce inflammation in the systemic sense. Now, if you're in a place where you just feel like completely fatigued and exhausted, and adding another thing just feels like it's too much, I want you to stick around, subscribe to this channel, go follow me on social media, and listen to the things that I have to say about this, because there was a point in my life where I was so chronically inflamed, I had no idea what to do, and I had to start from a place where I had no energy left. And it wasn't until I prayed, and that's my fourth thing, is I want you to, go and ask God, like, how you should address this. I think that there is a promise on our lives for being healthy and living a life of abundance and fulfillment, and that promise is actually in the Bible. Jeremiah 33:66 promises us that, we will be healthy and well. So there was this part of my life where I was like, I just kind of felt like I was all on my own, and I didn't really understand what it is that I could do. I felt like other people that were healthy and were just like looking really radiant and experiencing a lack of health issues, I didn't understand how those people were real. I knew my life as it was, and it just wasn't good. And so there was this point where I kind of had this rock bottom. I just couldn't deal with it, and I just didn't know what to do. And I think from that moment, I found my solution, and that's part of the reason my books exist, why I am making videos like this, is because I don't want you guys to have to go through all of the years of suffering like I did. Like, I want to be able to provide a shortcut and just wisdom to help support you in finding your own solution, because there are certain things that are true generally across the board for people. Those are the things that I'm talking about in this video, in my other videos, and then there is this whole component of, yes, we have individual considerations where sometimes we need the Lord's wisdom on. Go to him and ask him, what are some other things that I need to be doing? Do I need to go see a specialist? Do I need to go, do I need to take a certain supplement? There are certain things that we can discover through plugging into our relationship with our Heavenly Father. So we are going to break down whether or not gluten is causing leaky gut or other issues for you. By the end of this video, you'll be able to know whether or not it should stay or go. So what is leaky gut? It's actually something that everybody can get. That happens when the tight junctions in your intestinal lining, they start to widen from a source of inflammation. Maybe the food, stress. Actually, stress is such a common reason why it can start to develop. These junctions, they start to widen. So when this happens, food particles, toxins, parasites, bacteria, they leak out into the bloodstream, causing inflammation in the body. So this, of course, will actually cause some symptoms. For some, it's bloating, skin issues like eczema, rash, acne, and even autoimmune disease in some. So leaky gut is serious, but the good news is that there are ways that you can take care of yourself to reduce it and heal it and seal the gut back up. So gluten is actually a protein found in wheat, and some people have celiac disease where they can't have gluten at all. The protein called gliadin, our immune cells in the gut, they attack it, and then they also damage the enzyme that breaks down the gluten, and that ends up damaging the intestinal villi, which the purpose of those are to help absorb our nutrients. So celiac can be very serious and actually really life-threatening because it prevents your body from being able to absorb water and nutrients that it needs to thrive, which downstream, it can also cause issues with the other organs, not only from a nutrient standpoint and not having the nutrients that you need, but with the leaky gut, these antibodies, they circulate around the body. They can be confused and then start attacking other areas of the body too, like your liver, your brain, and then all of these problems start. Gluten sensitivity is different than celiac in the way that it's not as severe of a reaction. It can still cause leaky gut and symptoms of like mouth itching, bloating, those types of things, and digestive discomfort, but it's not the same as celiac disease. So why is gluten a problem, and why is this even a conversation to begin with? What we need to understand is the wheat that we're actually eating right now is not the same wheat that our parents were eating. It's actually been changed to be able to grow faster, to withstand bugs, and all of these compounds, they do make a difference once they're digested into our body because our gut doesn't like those things. It can actually promote leakiness and inflammation. When they look at the actual genetic makeup of the wheat today, there's actually new proteins in there that aren't in original wheat. So these new proteins, a lot of people theorize that these new proteins are the reason why gluten is causing so many more people problems these days with allergies, inflammation, and the uptick of people having issues with gluten. Additionally, today's wheat has been created to be more soluble with water. So when it can be mixed inside all of these packaged processed foods that you often find, why would that have gluten in it? Wheat has been put in there to act as a texturizer or some sort of stabilizer to help with perhaps the flavor or whatever they need to do. But people are theorizing that is causing issues for a lot of people as well. So now we're beginning to see the picture of why gluten today is not the same as it was maybe 50 years ago. And you can get tested for gluten sensitivity, but one of the best ways to determine whether or not gluten is bothering you is to actually eliminate it for about 30 days or more. So what's the problem with wheat if you're not actually sensitive to it? Do we need to avoid it? What do we need to know? Given the information that we know that the wheat is not the same anymore, and also, even though celiac population is only about 1 to 2% of people, 80% of people don't know that they have celiac. It's a stressful way to live your life because there's gluten in everything. You have to really go out of your way to live your life around food. Additionally, there is evidence it has addictive properties in it, so keep that in mind that if it acts on our opioid receptors, it has an influence on how addictive a certain food can be. The bottom line to help you in your decision making is just remembering the fact that when our body is in a pro-inflammatory state, healing can't take place. If you're on a mission to reach a health goal, to lose weight, to heal your skin, to feel more energy, to figure out what is ailing you, then we have to figure out what is the root cause of the inflammation that I'm experiencing, because conditions and diseases, there's inflammation behind those things. So we have to be very diligent in realizing what it is that's bothering our system and getting to the bottom of that. So inflammation starts in the gut. It can cause leaky gut. When it comes to discovering what your inflammatory source is, always start with the gut, because we want to make sure that those tight junctions are intact and things are not leaking out into the bloodstream and bothering the rest of our body, because you won't get anywhere unless you address that. But putting your body into a place where the inflammation has been reduced, you're healing, so much healing can take place. And you get that information, like maybe from an allergy test or an elimination diet. Just be your own advocate and do something with that information. Act on it. Improve your life and the quality of your health with that information. If you're not sensitive to gluten and you don't have celiac disease, but you want to put your gut in the best state possible, I would recommend doing a modified gluten approach, which if you're not sensitive to gluten, which would involve taking out processed forms of gluten and eating organic. When you're eating grains, choose whole grains, gluten-free grains, quinoa, brown rice. Try to just incorporate a gluten-free lifestyle without being completely gluten-free. If you don't need to be, you probably will feel a lot better, because of the nature of wheat these days is just not the same. I always try to find sourdough bread if I'm going to have like a slice of bread, because when the fermentation takes place in that sourdough, then the gluten content is decreased because the bacteria actually eat it. There are plenty of more mindful, health-minded decisions that you can make with your food choices that would actually be better. I've seen a lot of people go gluten-free, but then buy really highly processed forms of gluten-free breads, crackers, and then I'm not sure how much better off you are if you're just switching from gluten to those things, because then we gotta remember that blood sugar is also a component here. Like, we don't want to just spike blood sugar, because that also causes inflammation. And a lot of these gluten-free foods are processed down rice and potato starch, and these things have an impact on our blood sugar similar to how processed wheat and sugar would. So keep that in mind as well if you're pursuing a gluten-free lifestyle. These highly refined foods are really easy to eat a bunch of them. So like picture a 100-calorie slice of bread, 15 grams of carbohydrates. When you eat that, you don't really even feel that, but then if you eat like a quarter cup of grains, like whole grains like quinoa, that is actually really filling, and so you notice the difference sooner, and it's easier to eat in more moderate portions. And that, I didn't even talk about the nutrient density of those whole grains, the B vitamins, the fiber inside that will benefit you and your energy level as well. So I hope this perspective was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. Bye! Today, I'm going to be teaching you 3 reasons why you should consider removing or drastically reducing your dairy consumption. By the end of this video, you'll understand the reasons why conventional dairy is probably giving you more harm than good, what you can do instead, and how that can help your health of your thyroid, your gut, and everything else. Before we jump in, I just want to let you know about a special offer I have going on right now. I just finished my gut health book. Gut Health Reset is designed to help you restore your mind and microbiome, help with weight loss, and improving your overall health. And that is actually available in a digital PDF copy for free. And what you need to do to get in on that is go to my Instagram page. I have the details listed there. Express your interest by going to my Instagram page if you are interested in reading that book for free. Let's get into the 3 reasons why you might want to consider removing or drastically reducing your dairy intake. Many of you already know this. Not all dairy is created equal. So most of the dairy that we find in our regular grocery stores in the refrigerated section, ice cream, cheese, milk, all those things, those are considered conventional if they're not organic and grass-fed, pasture-raised dairy. And this is important because the cows and the animals that the milk comes from to make those products, those cows are treated differently than organic pasture-raised cows. They're fed things like grains, corn, and they're kept in small stalls, so their life is more stressful. Those cows have a higher level of inflammation throughout their life before they're milked or used for meat, and so that can actually become a source of inflammation for us when we consume those products. When we're trying to heal our body, the name of the game is reducing inflammation. So we don't want any byproducts from inflamed cows that was produced from that kind of cow. Those types of things will build up in your system and it will affect you in your healing. Also, many of us are sensitive to corn and grains. My suspicion and many other people's suspicion is these produce items are treated with herbicides, pesticides, and then their genetic structure, if they're not organic, has been modified with GMOs, so it's not actually completely natural. Cow milk has a lot of lactose in it. A lot of people are lactose intolerant. A lot of people don't produce enough of the enzyme lactase to break down the sugars that are inside dairy, so it actually goes into the colon. Still, those sugars are not digested and broken down. The enzyme's job, these enzymes actually come from the pancreas and the small intestine, and so when our body doesn't produce enough of these for a reason of just genetic, or maybe your bowel is diseased from poor gut health, SIBO, underlying medical condition, reasons like that, you are not going to break down lactose as well as somebody who has enough lactase enzyme. So keep that in mind as well, because a lot of people are very familiar with the term lactose intolerant. I'm lactose intolerant. Just know that that comes from not being able to completely digest dairy appropriately. So it arrives down to the colon not digested, and that's when the symptoms start. You know, the gas, the bloating, the changes with bowel pattern. Those are reactions to the molecules not being properly digested, and that causes problems downstream. The third one is milk has casomorphin in it, and casomorphin is actually a compound inside that is originally designed to help baby cows want to keep drinking the dairy so they can grow big and strong. Milk has that compound casomorphin that links up with the receptors in its brain, telling it, I want more of this. Those remain intact when it goes into the milk and then goes to production for our consumption. So have you ever heard somebody say, I love cheese, I love milk, I'm addicted, I can't go without, I could never give up cheese? That's the reason, because it has these compounds inside that actually act on your opioid receptors inside your brain, telling you that you want more, you need it, you can't go without. So I think that's why reducing or removing dairy is kind of like, it feels unachievable for a lot of people because they love it so much. Once you kind of like get that out of your system by removing or reducing, I'd say remove for a while, not forever, just for a while, because once you remove it, it takes about like at least a month, even longer, for your body to do necessary healing to rebuild those enzymes, to heal the gut tissue if you are getting inflamed from this dairy. You want to give your body some time to actually rest and regenerate and just reduce any inflammatory response that might be coming from dairy. And I'm going to go into some reasons why you might want to choose alternative dairy-free substitutes or go with a different type of dairy. There's actually sheep's milk and goat's milk and raw forms of dairy, even from cows, that are more easily digestible and tolerated better by people, and I'm going to get into that. If you're going the strategy of eliminating dairy for a while, what you can do is you can have a plan to just know the recipes that you're going to use that are going to be used instead of eating dairy. So let's say you really like eating nachos or pizza. There are many places that will do dairy-free pizza, like they'll use dairy-free cheese to make the pizza, frozen pizzas out to like pizzas at restaurants. You just gotta look them up on the internet before you go out to eat. And then also there are plenty of just delicious comfort foods that you can make in your kitchen with full fat coconut milk. That's coconut milk in a can, and it actually has a lot of medium chain fatty acids, which are great for the brain, and medium chain fatty acids actually help feed the gut bacteria so they can thrive as well. So coconut it's like the best thing that you substitute in when you're going dairy free. That fat also gives you a feeling of satiation, which is really helpful because cheese and dairy is also a source of fat, so you want to make sure that you're bringing that in as well. There's many recipes that you can make that have cream-based broths, soups, things that are normally made with like heavy cream or half and half or milk. You can substitute or coconut milk on a 1-to-1 measurement. You can actually use dairy-free cheese. You can buy it in the store. A couple of companies that I really like their dairy-free products are Violife, that's with a V, and then also Daiya, because a lot of the cheeses that are dairy-free actually have other inflammatory ingredients in them, like seed oils, things that you want to avoid otherwise, so it wouldn't be like a very helpful swap. But there are some really good ones out there for the times that you want to have something like cheese, like a sandwich or something like that actually do exist. They do cheese shreds and cheese slices. Another thing that you can do is switch from cow's milk to sheep and goat's milk because it actually has more B12, vitamin C, magnesium, and folate in there. It has smaller fat molecules and less lactose, so it's easier to digest. It's more vitamin and mineral rich, so that can be helpful if you're looking for maybe another alternative, but you don't want to be like dairy-free. Sheep's milk and goat's milk cheese can be a great alternative. Additionally, both of those have less casein and whey. You've probably seen whey and casein protein in the store for a source of protein powder, and those are actually proteins found in milk that a lot of people have trouble digesting. Sheep's milk and goat's milk cheese actually has less of that. Another thing you can do, fermented and raw dairy is a great alternative. If you can incorporate those are also really rich in vitamins and minerals. Raw dairy has some enzymes intact, so for those who are sensitive to lactose, raw dairy might actually be more tolerated for you because of the enzymes inside, and then the amino acids and the minerals that are left intact from not going through that pasteurization process. And fermented dairy is rich in probiotics, which are great for our gut microbiome. Those little microbes, they actually help digest food and they help digest the lactose as well. So they help the body do the job, and that's why sometimes you can notice if you're eating like yogurt, especially high probiotic content yogurt, even if it's not dairy free, you might notice sometimes that you don't have as many digestive symptoms, which might be because of the probiotic content inside. Those microbes help you digest the compounds in dairy, and it's a better choice of dairy. Kefir and yogurt are good examples. And finally, if you just don't want to give up dairy but you want to kind of figure out how you can digest it better, incorporating fermented foods so you can get those probiotics, and then maybe also incorporating an enzyme supplement when you're taking dairy. A lot of times we don't make the amount of enzymes that we need to digest the compounds in dairy, so you can take a supplement and just, here and there, you don't want to supplement your whole life, but once in a while or for a season while you're healing, it might be a helpful idea just to have on hand as needed. This week I got asked a really important question about one of the sweeteners that I tend to use on my recipes, and that is called allulose. I'll show you the video. I thought this was a great question, and I wanted to just answer it in a video. What is allulose and why does it help the gut? Allulose is considered a rare sugar, and when you look at the molecular structure of it under a microscope, it would be something called a single chain sugar or a monosaccharide. It's about 10% of the calories of regular sugar, and it provides about 25% less sweetness when you're looking at it on a 1-to-1 scale. Sources of allulose are figs, raisins, corn, and even some common sweeteners that we know. It's found in brown sugar and maple syrup as part of the thing that makes it sweet. So it's important when you're looking for allulose to find a non-GMO kind so you're not eating any engineered food. There's a good reason why allulose has become part of a discussion lately in the realm of natural health and hormone healing, and that's because it does not have a glycemic or a blood sugar effect. There's also a peptide that gets released, a gut hormone called GLP-1, that helps us feel satisfied when we're eating. Allulose has been proposed to help release this hormone so we can feel more satisfied with the food that we're eating. So to make a full circle and to discuss why this is beneficial to the gut, off the bat, it's great if we have an alternative to sugar, something sweet that doesn't spike the blood sugar. You're already reducing inflammation. If we need to have reduced inflammation to heal the gut in the first place, so this can provide just a practical tool for you to start this out. Additionally, it's a prebiotic fiber. This is not something that the body can take in as a nutrient source, but our gut bugs love prebiotic fiber and they need it to produce short-chain fatty acids. Short-chain fatty acids are helpful in maintaining the mucus layer in the gut, as well as lowering inflammation. Allulose can be a really helpful alternative sweetener if you're looking for something different than erythritol, stevia. Monk fruit is still good, but it's often cut with erythritol. So this is why most of the time I'm using allulose in my recipes. It's not a 1-to-1 replacement for sugar. You do need a little bit more to achieve the same level of sweetness, but I find that I don't like to have super sweet, so I just end up using the same amount. I actually found this sweetener back in 2018 when I was following more of the ketogenic style diet, and that's how I kind of came to my formula now on helping reduce prediabetes and get people on the right track and how I continue to maintain a healthy lifestyle. I use monk fruit and I use allulose, but honestly, I prefer allulose over monk fruit. And the reason why that is because a lot of monk fruit sweetener is cut with erythritol. Erythritol can actually be sourced from both corn and then birch trees. So if you're ever getting something from Bulletproof Coffee and it's sweetened with erythritol in it, apparently that erythritol is coming from birch trees and it's a cleaner, better product. Long story short, the reason why I don't like to have erythritol at all anymore is because I've noticed that it actually hurts my stomach when I take it in. It doesn't matter if I've eaten something, definitely worse on an empty stomach actually. But allulose is actually, I've heard that some people say that it hurts their stomach. I just think it speaks to our bio-individuality. And honestly, I feel like for most people, I haven't heard a problem with allulose. I like that it's not considered a sugar alcohol. I think that sugar alcohols do cause that gastric upset. And I really like that the body can't absorb most of what's in allulose for energy at all. It has to it doesn't even absorb when it's in the colon, so it's not considered caloric intake. So what do you guys think about this sweetener? Have you tried it? Let me know below, and I'll see you in the next one. Hello, Health and Wellness Tribe. I was raised a really good question in our community recently about Candida. What is it and how can you solve it if you have it? So in this video, you're going to learn what the symptoms of Candida are and some tips that you can start doing today to help solve Candida in your gut. Candida overgrowth is not something that's recognized as an actual problem in the medical community, so unfortunately many people are suffering from it without even knowing it. If you're curious what kind of symptoms you might experience if you do have a Candida overgrowth, here is what they are. Profound fatigue, particularly around 2 p.m. You start to feel like you're crashing, you need to drink a cup of coffee, eat something sweet to bring you back to life. Bloating and just irregular bowel pattern, gas, rashes, acne, eczema, rosacea. You could be experiencing frequent infections like urinary tract infections or yeast infections. Not thinking clearly, feeling like you have a brain fog all the time. This was so incredibly noticeable once I healed how much brain fog I actually had. I want to add on that Candida overgrowth can cause mood issues. I'm talking anxiety and depression, just feeling really low all the time. These are all signs that you may have a Candida overgrowth. Last but not least is the carbohydrate and sugar cravings. Candida has this way of making you crave sugar because that's how it gets its energy and populates more. when you actually take away that sugar is when we start to see some of the results that we're going to talk about in a minute. It's time to give you the 4 steps that you can start today to start reducing candida in your gut lining. Number 1 is reduce or completely eliminate sugar. Yes, it's really difficult and it's not something that sounds sexy at all. However, when you do that, so many other things in your health can start to improve and benefit. It makes it easier to lose weight because you're reducing your caloric intake, using your body to reduce inflammation, because a lot of inflammation actually comes from sugar intake. Extra sugar and refined carbohydrates isn't helping anyone's blood sugar, and unfortunately, most people don't even know that sugar is causing such a problem. And that's why I believe that more people have a candida overgrowth than we actually think sometimes. I believe that since our diet in the United States is so laden with sugar and we have to be so careful about reading our labels, really reducing the amount of sugar and refined carbohydrates. I'm talking like sodas, some yogurts have a lot of added sugar. You know, adding sugar to coffee and baking is obvious, but when you're looking at sauces, when you're looking at condiments, all those things, people aren't really even following the serving size on those, and you can end up eating a lot more sugar than you anticipate. The idea behind removing these sugars is to help starve the candida because this is their preferred food source. If you can take away their most preferred food source, they're not going to be able to proliferate or be able to stay alive as well, especially when you're bringing in those supplements to help clear them out. Number 2 is another dietary one. This is going to help your overall gut health and help reduce leaky gut, but that's going to be diversifying the amount of plant foods that you have. They say that bringing in about 30 plant foods per week can help increase the diversity in your gut microbiome. So as you are looking to reduce the population of something that's not super helpful, we want to bring in more diversity in the other populations of bacteria. So when you are taking the care to bring in probiotics in your probiotic foods and supplements, you do want to feed those bugs by bringing in as many plant foods as you can. Thirdly, we're going to want to take probiotics. Probiotic supplement when you are looking to clear candida overgrowth out is going to really support you rebalancing your gut microbiome. Finding one with 5 to 7 different strains in it is the best practice and helps promote that diversity that we're looking for, that can actually help sweep out and prevent these overgrowths from happening in the first place. I always recommend my friends and my clients be taking probiotics along with probiotic foods because there's so many strains that they cannot culture and put into a probiotic supplement that can be found in really good probiotic foods such as kefir, yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi. These are some examples of probiotic foods. Kombucha can be good. Try to find one with low sugar. I think that it bears repeating that sometimes we don't want to go in and add a probiotic food that has a ton of added sugar, and kombucha can be one of those choices that does tend to be higher on the sugar side. So do keep that in mind as you're looking for your probiotic foods, and be mindful of the choices and the goals that you have. Whenever we're doing anything with the gut, we want to make it a stress reduction season. And if you're somebody who rolls your eyes every time somebody says, look for stress reduction techniques, you're the person I'm talking to. I honestly am that person, so I can take that advice to heart myself. Like, there's something to be said about reducing stress because our gut and our brain are so closely linked, and just the way that our gut communicates to our brain and helps send signals to repair, leak, all of the things. You want to make sure that you're sending your brain the right signals and also sending your gut the right signals. My favorite one is just laying flat, looking at the ceiling in bed, doing a diaphragmatic breathing technique where I'm allowing my abdomen to expand and allowing my breath to go in for 4 seconds, holding for 7, and then exhaling for 8. This is something that you can do every single day, 3 to 5 minutes. It's going to do wonders for you and prevent further issues with stress in your gut. Other things you can consider is exercise, meditative practices, prayer. I think that breathing is such a good nervous system relaxer, and that's why I went into the detail of explaining it. So I hope that was supportive and helpful for you guys as you start to cleanse your body from candida. I invite you to stick around, subscribe, like this video, because next we'll be talking about how to deal with the symptoms of candida detox. I don't want you to miss this one because it's going to be super important in your next steps. All right, I'll see you guys in the next one, and you take care. Bye. Hello, Health and Wellness Tribe. Welcome back for another video. I promised you a candida symptoms detox video. So know that by the Know that by the end of this video, you are going to walk away knowing what the symptoms of Candida detox are and some ways you can help abate those and make them more manageable as you go through that journey. If you're new here, my name is Cara. I'm a health and wellness coach, author, and nurse. I help people heal their gut and lose weight sustainably. Healing Candida is a big part of that, and it's a super common issue when it comes to gut health, leaky gut, restoring the gut lining. If you want to hear my gut healing journey, I've got plenty of videos on my channel. I invite you to subscribe, like this video, and send this to somebody you know needs to see this. Candida is a fungus that is supposed to be in our gut microbiome, but it can overgrow because we have such a diet rich in sugar in the United States. It's an overgrow if you are immunocompromised, if your diet is rich in sugar, or if you have other medical conditions. No matter what the reason you started to have a Candida overgrowth is, you definitely want to address it. If you are looking for a way to help take the first steps and you're finding this video for the first time, I invite you to go watch this video where I talk about the strategies that you can start to implement that are going to make the most difference. That being said, we're going to talk about how to detox your Candida with nutrition and supplements today, and also what the symptoms of Candida detox are so you're not caught off guard and you can actually do something about it. It's the number one thing that you want to address. I bet you guys can guess what I'm going to say when it comes to what's the number one thing that you can expect to need to change when it comes to cleansing Candida from your life. Nutrition. And I know that it's super daunting, it's unexciting, but this is really going to be the foundation for your success. So when I say this, just know that I'm saying this with every single ounce of knowing it myself, every single part of me that knows that it's completely true, and that's why it's worth it to mention it again. So making sure that you're not consuming a lot of sugar. My favorite way to reduce sugar and still eat something sweet is something called allulose. It's a non-glycemic sweetener that's from a natural source. It comes from plants. It can make sure that you're actually able to have something sweet by helping sweeten your drinks, helping sweeten your baking, but it's not sugar. It's actually a prebiotic fiber as well. So when you're taking it in, it will feed the good gut bugs and Candida will be starved off because the primary and preferred food source of Candida is sugar. And sugar is actually broken down from, well, regular sugar and then also refined carbohydrates and carbohydrates. So you can still take in things like whole grains, complex carbohydrates, but what about complex carbohydrates? Those are generally a better choice, full of fiber, vitamins, and they're not as easily broken down and they're lower in straight up sugar. I want to take a minute to address that changing diet is not easy. It's really hard. But if you can actually grasp this mindset change and kind of, instead of picturing taking out sugar and changing your diet as this really negative, hard thing, instead, I'm inviting you to look at it from the perspective of maybe this is the best thing you've ever done for yourself. Maybe just around the corner, 2 weeks from now, you're gonna feel the best you've ever felt. And how much is that worth? And you can't put a price on it. There's nothing like bouncing back and getting your health back or having a better health status than you've ever had in your life as staying the same, thinking like, I can't do it, keeping your diet the same and not really making the change because you don't feel confident that you have what it takes to sustain it. That being said, let's dive into a strategy that you can use to stay low carb. Eating a lot of protein and vegetables, reducing fruits that are super sweet, berries and lemons generally are super good and they can help provide a good balance of prebiotic fibers without putting a lot of extra added sugar that other fruits that have a lot of fructose could deliver and cause your Candida to not die off as quickly. Also make sure to get your healthy fats in there. Avocado, ghee, tallow, grass-fed butter, coconut oil, those things are going to help support the cellular membranes and any regeneration that your gut lining needs to do as it heals up and solves any leaky gut that is accompanying the Candida overgrowth. If you're feeling lost on where to look for recipes or what foods to eat, my book Gut Health Reset has a ton of different recipes and food lists, grocery lists, things to set you up for success. So I invite you to check that out. It's linked below and you can actually get a plan fully laid out for you in that book as well. The structure in the book is 4 weeks, but the bonuses actually take you out to 6 months. So I would recommend that you pick that up if you're feeling overwhelmed and you need more guidance than this video provides. There's nothing better than including a naturopathic doctor in your health journey. I definitely did that when I couldn't figure out what to do next. Some people need individual consideration. What I'm telling you today worked really well for me. Everybody's bodies are so individual, so do not hesitate to include a functional medicine or a naturopathic doctor in your journey. Now let's talk about supplements and how they can help solve a candida overgrowth. I want you to just be reminded that if your diet is not in order, supplements, there's going to be a limit to how much they can help you. You don't want to be in the position where you're canceling out the benefit of the cleanse by eating a ton of sugar. The first supplement I want to recommend is a system called Triplex. Triplex is a prebiotic fiber drink, a cleansing supplement, and a probiotic. Take them every day, and over a period of time the candida actually cleanse out and your microbiome is rebalanced. This is what I did when I was healing candida, and this is what worked the best for me. Your body may be different. The drink helps reduce your sugar cravings and carbohydrate cravings, which is so important because candida, when you have an excess of them, you just crave more sugar, and it makes it easier when you have something like that in your arsenal to help tackle the cravings. So in addition to the benefit of actually helping rebalance the gut microbiome and providing prebiotic fiber, it actually had that effect as well. The probiotic, of course, brings in the good bugs so you can help restore the population. And then the cleansing supplement helps grab on all those toxins, and when candida die off, toxins are released, and that's actually what creates a lot of symptoms for you and makes you miserable, which we'll talk about in a second. The supplement inside of there called BioCleanse helps grab onto those toxic byproducts and gets them out in a manner that helps you cleanse a little bit faster. Another promising product, or two products actually, and I've tried these myself, I would really stand behind them. They have a good body of research actually behind them as well, is the Candibactin AR and BR system. This is actually a little bit more affordable. However, it doesn't come with the drink, and it doesn't come with something to help speed up the removal of the toxins that are being released into your body. If you do go the AR and BR route, I would recommend taking a charcoal or something like a binder to help bind up some of those toxins that are being released when you're cleansing candida out. And always make sure that you're talking with your provider about any supplement that you're starting. If this is appropriate for you, making sure that it's not going to interfere with any of your medications. A binder supplement such as activated charcoal can help bind up those toxic components. The good thing about Candibactin AR and BR is that it can help reduce something called SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, in addition to candida overgrowth. That's really promising. I'm not sure if Plexus addresses SIBO. Know that what I was dealing with in my gut was most consistent with candida overgrowth, and Plexus addressed that so well. That's why I would say that if you're having kind of garden variety candida overgrowth symptoms, I would go ahead and go that route. You've been hearing me talk about all these candida die-off symptoms, and unfortunately, sometimes things get worse before they get better. When you start cleansing your system of candida, when they die off, they release these toxins and then they make you feel terrible. Some of the symptoms of candida die-off are pretty similar to the overgrowth, but almost like the volume is turned up. So fatigue, rash, things start to worsen, bloating. Something that's a little bit unique to the die-off is headache, and sometimes people can even experience a fever. I wanted to share that with you because if you start to experience those symptoms and you are really tempted to stop your cleanse, this is all something that you can expect to see happen when candida starts to die off. Today I'm going to be revealing 5 different things that I'm doing this fall to help support my gut health and my hormones. We've started to kind of learn that the gut and our hormones are so interconnected. So what we have going on inside of our gut can actually influence how the rest of our body works, because hormones help send signals that help our organs work and help the rest of our body to function in harmony together. We need all these things to be intact, to be healthy and be well from the inside out. And if you're new here, my name is Cara. I'm a holistic health coach and nutritionist, and I specialize in helping you heal your gut. And I like to do it in a way that helps bring sustainability to the table, because I used to be struggling with an eating disorder for 11 years, and I was not able to maintain a healthy lifestyle and be well because I was restricting the things that I really enjoyed. My message is all about how to bring a healthy lifestyle and sustainability together so you don't go crazy and just be robbed of everything. And my hope is that some of these ideas and things that I have found really helpful, these things that I've decided to do, are gonna also help you out in whatever your goals are at this time. Number 1 is actually making sure that I'm eating more vegetables in my meals. So I like to have about half of my plate in vegetables like zucchini, onions, squash, carrots. I like to cook my vegetables in the morning. As you're seeing me making this breakfast, I'm shaving a little bit of zucchini, I'm chopping some red onion and putting it with my eggs. So I'm getting some nutrients from vegetables straight away at the beginning of my day. And just to make it balanced, I do add some cheese, and so I'm getting quite of a balance here. I found that I don't need as many carbohydrates all the time. So if I'm doing like if I'm gonna do a bigger workout and I'm planning to do that, I'll have maybe a little bit more carbohydrates. Right now, I know that today I'm not gonna be doing anything super strenuous. I've learned that through trial and error. That's just what works really well for me. The other part to my food choices is gonna be eating a lot of seasonal produce, so squash, root vegetables like carrots, turnips, some sweet potatoes, some more potatoes. Our ancestors would eat what they had around, what was in season, and seasonal produce has very rich vitamins, and additionally, if you can get it local, that shortens the time that it's been transported, and so the nutrients inside are actually most viable if you're able to get it local and seasonal. I'm also choosing organic produce whenever possible to avoid pesticides and herbicides that could interfere with my hormones in my gut. Number 2 is sea salt. So as we've heard, taking too much salt can cause high blood pressure and issues with retaining water, and that can be a problem for many of us when it comes to our health. But what we don't hear about very often is how sea salt can actually be a better choice for getting your sodium intake. Let me tell you why. Sea salt is full of a lot of trace minerals, and we need minerals to maintain a heartbeat, to think properly, and have good energy levels, and also microscopic processes like repairing DNA. Did you know that about 50% of Americans are actually deficient in magnesium? Magnesium is really important because it supports our heart health, muscle health, nerve health, and it also is one of the minerals that helps keep your heart beating right now. In the hospital, when somebody would have an issue with their heart or they would go into cardiac arrest, one of the first things that we would hang would be calcium or magnesium. And that's because these minerals a lot of times are responsible for our heart going out of rhythm. It's interesting to me that some of the life-saving measures that we would do would be to hang minerals in an IV bag. And unfortunately, our produce isn't as mineral rich as it used to be a lot. In really industrialized farming, where we've farmed the same land so many times over, that soil doesn't have as much minerals that it used to. And it doesn't have that much time to rest and regenerate. It doesn't get replenished like it would when the fields had seasons to rest. Sea salt can actually help with this. So it has, pink sea salt actually has almost 90 trace minerals in it. Selenium, zinc, copper, magnesium, and of course sodium chloride, which is what salt is. But I like to get sea salt every day. In my recipes, I'll just sprinkle a little bit on top, and then I know that I'm supporting my minerals. And sometimes I'll also supplement magnesium. One of the best ways to get your minerals is to be eating a wide variety, lots of different foods, and foods that are whole foods, not processed, broken down, packaged, because those ones are actually stripped of a lot of their nutrient content. Number 3 in what I'm doing is I'm taking walks outside daily. So not only does this help get my vitamin D levels that I need every single day, but it also helps me to balance my serotonin levels out. They found in the study that they did, they studied people for 90 minutes in traffic and 90 minutes outside in nature. And the nature walking group had more regulated function of the prefrontal cortex, which actually is responsible for helping us process negative emotions. So we can ruminate a lot on negative thoughts, and our prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain where this happens. So that actually was decreased in people that walked in nature for 90 minutes. So the science is backing up what we know to be true already about how nature can be really therapeutic for our mental health. This type of cardio actually helps lower blood pressure as well. Number 4 is I'm supplementing beef organs in my diet. So beef organs are really rich in B vitamins, particularly B12, and also compounds like ALA, which can protect our mitochondria from damage. Mitochondria help us produce energy in our body. And so I'm taking the female reproductive organs because I believe in the philosophy behind organ meat supplements that like supports like. It has compounds, peptides, amino acids, and things that will support my reproductive hormones and my organs as well. I've started to take it because I had some PMS symptoms that I wanted to see if they could improve after I felt like I had done everything. In this case, I feel like supplementing has really supported my need for just some extra additional support with PMS symptoms. And 5 is last but not least, exterior care. So things that I'm doing on the outside and not just putting in my body, they actually affect my hormones and my gut health. Things like blue light from our screens can interfere with melatonin production, which is the thing that helps us have a restful night's sleep and help us feel tired at nighttime. Blue light from our screens can actually block that from producing enough so it can actually keep you from feeling sleepy. So I like to wear blue light glasses in the evening time if I'm still using my screens. I haven't completely perfected my nighttime routine where I'm off of screens before bed. On the nights that I do use screens right before I go to sleep, I'm putting those blue blockers on whenever possible to help myself to feel sleepy at an appropriate time, because we also need to feel tired and we also need to be able to rest enough hours in the nighttime for our hormones and our gut to repair and be healthy. I'm swapping all my plastic containers whenever possible for glass, things that are free from BPA, which can interfere with hormones, and I'm swapping my soaps and my shampoos for things more natural, like this soap that my sister made for me. It's made from goat's milk and it has rosemary in it, and this actually is better for my skin, and I know that it doesn't have the chemicals in it like sodium lauryl sulfate that I'm trying to reduce, which actually can dry out the skin more. But I'm mainly looking for things that are free of parabens, sulfates, phthalates, BPA, and yes, these are all like a bunch of fancy words, but what actually makes them so bad for you? I get it. So when you think about it, these are products we use every day over time, so their cumulative effect is really what's going to make the impact over time. Think about the cookware and the storage containers, the soaps that you've been using since you were little. Like if those have compounds in them that have now been revealed to cause issues and inflammation and disrupt our hormones, think about how much of a difference it would make to remove those and swap those for things that don't actually cause issues over time, because our body that needs an absence of those toxins in order to repair. It can't repair when it keeps being bombarded by toxins from the inside and the outside, and so what we use on the outside actually can be absorbed into our body and actually affect us inside as well. Thing is, overhauling takes time, but it's absolutely so worth it. And then leave a comment below as well. Subscribe if you enjoy seeing videos like this in your feed, and I will see you next time. Bye. I promised a couple months ago when I moved that I would be sharing with you my journey with taking my own protocol that I wrote about in my book and what my results were this time. And I was so happy with how they turned out that I will share all the tea with you. I wanted to show you this supplement. It's a essential oil concentrated blend that actually helps support a good balanced bacteria inside your gut. So it can eliminate SIBO, which is that small intestinal bowel overgrowth, pardon me. And the reason that you don't want bacteria or a lot of them growing up in your small intestine is because most of them are supposed to be down in the colon where they can ferment your food in the right place. Bacteria, one of their jobs is to ferment food. So if they start fermenting, like if there's a lot of bacteria further up your small intestine, like I had from my eating disorder and all of the things that I was doing, drinking too much alcohol, taking certain medications, I ended up with SIBO, and people can end up with this bacterial overgrowth or fungal overgrowth in this system. You don't have to do this, there are different ways to do it, but there's oil of oregano inside this one. There's thyme, sage, and lemon balm, and that's a concentrated, edible, safe version inside the AR variety. This company is Metagenetics. This was actually, the reason I'm talking about this is because this one was studied. It was studied to have a good impact on SIBO, and it actually was supportive in not allowing it to recur. So we don't want something to come back, we want it to go away permanently. And if you do have it recur, then you can just take the herbal remedies again. But the BR formulation is berberine, and so berberine actually helps rebalance the gut microbiome, and there's also a bunch of different Chinese herbs in here as well. But berberine also does balance appetite, and it's been shown to support people in their hunger and also their cravings, and it helps support easier weight loss. So this is a really nice supplement for those who your goal is also to lose weight and to rebalance and have a good, healthy, manageable weight for you. And these were actually pretty much, they were a good investment. I spent $100, a little bit less than that on these 2 bottles, but they're still here 2 months later. I didn't take them every day. I just decided I'm gonna save these just in case I wanna start taking them again later. But I use these in the plan of my book. It worked for me. I ended up losing some weight. I ended up losing some fat. I can tell because I've been lifting weights and my muscle definition is a lot better. I can tell based on how my clothes are fitting. So I would encourage you that if that's your goal, to check these out. I found mine on Amazon. You can find them linked below. My symptoms that I started using these for were actually, I was having some more bloating, I was having some more kind of it was terrible smelling gas. I just want to be completely honest with you. And I was feeling sluggish again. During the time of taking these, I also started taking a probiotic, but I started taking the probiotic at a separate time of day because I didn't want the probiotic and this to be in my gut at the same time. I wanted, because this is supposed to help decrease bacteria in the small intestine, and I want my probiotic to actually get all the way through to the colon and be able to do its job. So if you do end up taking this, take this during the day as it's recommended on the bottle. It says to take it 30 minutes before meals on an empty stomach. The AR, you're supposed to take 3 times a day. Before meals with a full glass of water. And I did that, and then also the BR, you're supposed to take it twice a day. 2 tablets. So what I did was I just took this before breakfast and before dinner, and I took this before breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was great. It really supported me, and it reduced all my symptoms. And then the probiotic I took before bed, so there was at least 3 hours in between the supplements that I was taking, and I was feeling confident that they weren't going to be touching each other. What do you guys think? Are you going through any of these symptoms that we talked about last week in the gut dysbiosis video? If so, make sure to pick up a copy of the book so you can have the 4-week plan to reference. You can use it over and over again. That's what I just did actually. I did the 4-week plan again on myself, and I always go back to it. That's why I put it in the book, because it was so effective for me, and I know that it's been effective for others as well now. Check that out, and then also check these out. Just take care of the symptoms that you have so you can start feeling better sooner. I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Hello, Health and Wellness Tribe. Welcome back for another video. Today we're going to be reviewing the very crucial concept of how to not interrupt a good gut healing journey. We know what we should be doing for gut healing. We're taking probiotics, we're eating probiotic foods, we're trying to manage our stress, but sometimes we struggle with the gray areas, and I think that it's really critical that we shine some light on some of the things that we may be doing that may not seem so obvious when it comes to a gut healing journey, and what we can do instead. My name is Cara, and I'm a health and wellness coach, an author, and a nurse, and I help you to heal your gut and lose weight in a sustainable manner so you can actually enjoy that lifestyle of being healthy and well. So much of the time we just fall off the wagon because things aren't sustainable. If you are looking for a Christian faith-based perspective on how to heal the body and how to invite God into that and how to develop a strategy of sustainability around these things, I invite you to join our community and subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with somebody that you think would benefit from this information. I believe that God's design for our bodies is that He wants the very best for our health. Our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, and in order to fulfill our God-given purpose on this earth, we need to have a healthy body, and gut health is one of those foundational pieces to our health, a cornerstone to our health that we must have in place to be able to heal the body and keep everything intact. That is why I take such care to address gut health. It's so great that God led me through my own gut healing journey when I didn't know what else to do. Now I can teach gut healing to other people who are also struggling with other issues, and so we can interrupt what's going on, get you set on the right track for healing. Let's grab onto a visual of what it means to heal the gut just to review. Number 1, healing the gut means you're restoring the microbiome, putting diversity, like a good population of diverse bacteria inside of the digestive lining, because each bacterial population has a job and helps contribute to our health in various ways. We have an overgrowth of certain bacteria that are more prone to cause infection, then that can throw the population and our health out of balance. And these things are invisible to the naked eye, so sometimes it's hard to just conceptualize what this even means. Thankfully, there's so much research coming out about the gut, how integral it is to our health. It's just becoming undeniable. And the second is we're going to be sealing up that digestive tissue. Our gut lining is actually made up of a single layer of cells, and these cells can be tightly fit together. That's the way they're supposed to be. Or if it's more leaky because of stress or other factors, there can be holes in between. And then particles and bacteria can actually leak out of the digestive system into our bodies where they shouldn't be, and that promotes a low-grade level of inflammation all the time. And this is why we start to see autoimmune disorders. Inflammation can be the instigator for turning on so many pathways to the rest of our health. Always in our best interest to make sure that our gut health is being addressed, and we're doing something for our gut health all the time, every single day, because this is going to help you reduce the chance of so much illness and disease in your life. So when we reduce stress and remove that inflammation, increase the diversity in our gut microbiome, our gut starts to be restored and the cells start to kind of find their way back together. You start to develop more of a sealed gut lining the way that it's supposed to be. The mucosa starts to become healthier, you get a good diversity in your population, things start to balance out. We start to see reduction in bloating, better mental health, decreased anxiety, our energy levels are better, our joints aren't hurting as much, our skin is clearing up, we're digesting our food better, and we want to make sure that we understand how to not interrupt this process. Now that everything is operating better and feeling good, I want to make sure we don't interrupt this so our healing stays on track. Next, we're going to discuss the 6 areas that can impair our gut healing journey and prevent us from making the progress that we so desperately need. Number 1 is letting stress rule your life. If you allow your lifestyle to be so busy and not allow things to kind of calm down and simmer down, your gut can start to become leaky. And if this perpetuates, if you do not figure out a way to stop the stress and reduce the stress, change how things are set up, then that's going to be grounds for your gut to stay leaking, and it's not going to easily seal up until you remove that stress. If you're a person who is constantly living in a high stress environment, you have a lot of commitments or whatever, just know that it's not sustainable for your health. And this is one of the reasons why stress is so toxic to our system, is that it affects the gut. Once you start to get leaky gut, things become more complex. Ever notice you start to feel yourself needing extra coffee when you're stressed? Or your energy levels are out of whack, or your skin starts screwing up, or you just feel like you can't digest food as well as before. They're all signs that your gut is suffering from the stress that you're under. 2 is alcohol. Anything that comes into the body needs to be processed. Not only is alcohol really rough on the gut cells to begin with, the actual tissue and the actual cells inside of our stomach lining, but our gut microbes actually process alcohol, and some of the products and some of these byproducts that come that come out of the gut microbes after they process the alcohol are actually inflammatory and toxic to our system. Components inside of alcohol that encourage cancer to form: the compound of ethanol. It's linked with esophageal cancer, makes cancer more likely to develop. The second one is acetaldehyde, and this compound is linked with cancer as well. Not only are we harming our liver, we're harming our stomach lining, we're putting our body at higher risk for cancer to develop. This is something that's becoming so clear to me that we should probably be minimizing our drinking as much as we can or eliminating alcohol altogether. Number 3 is artificial sweeteners. Saccharin, aspartame, sucralose, and even stevia have been shown in research studies to impact the gut microbiome and promote populations of bacteria that are more prone to causing infection to overgrow more than we would like. I'm going to link a research study in the description box below for you guys to check that out, because a lot of times we think artificial sweeteners, myself included, I was thinking stevia is super healthy for us. We have to remember that it's really important for us to review what type of impact what we're eating is having on our gut microbiome and the rest of our health. And unfortunately, these artificial sweeteners have started to show some drawbacks, and we should be mindful about what we're consuming. So far, allulose and monk fruit, those are helpful to the gut, and allulose is actually a prebiotic fiber that helps feed the gut microbes and helps them to grow and diversify. By the way, those are 2 sweeteners that don't impact the blood sugar, so if you're struggling with rebalancing your blood sugar, or you don't want to eat honey, cane sugar, maple syrup, coconut sugar, the healthier, more natural types of sugar, which also spike blood sugar, you can opt for monk fruit sweetener and allulose as alternatives. And that's actually what I do as a former pre-diabetic. I was able to reverse my A1C down into the normal range by making mindful choices around my sweeteners and shifting how I eat in general. That helps us transition perfectly into the 4th one, which is to reduce sugar consumption. Bacteria really love to eat sugar. It's like one of their favorite food sources, something that they can grow and populate and just multiply so rapidly with. If we can reduce the sugar consumption that we're taking in from like sodas
added sugar from all the packaged and processed foods, and try to keep all of the sugar intake that we get from like our fruits and like the food that we're eating that's whole food, you're already going to be so much healthier and feel so much more energetic. Plus, with those whole foods, if there's sugar in there, there's also fiber and macronutrients that help slow down the absorption of that sugar into your gut and to your bloodstream, so you don't get that spike that you might get if you're just drinking some juice or something. 5 is ultra processed foods. These have a lot of refined sugars, fats, emulsifiers, texturizers, food colorings that our gut microbes have to process. These are not recognized by our body super well, and the liver has to sift through them, and it slows down the process of healing because this is interrupting our digestive process, and it has to like kind of sift through this garbage before it can like heal up the gut. We don't want to slow down our body's process of healing if we can avoid it. Trying to steer in the direction of more whole foods and cooking your meals and making sure that you're eating foods with as little ingredients as possible is a really good rule of thumb to keep things simple. Number 6 is one that is maybe unsuspecting, and that is long-term use of proton pump inhibitors, or medications that help stop the flow of acid from the gastric cells. Medications like Protonix and omeprazole, they actually prevent the parietal cells in the digestive lining from releasing the hydrochloric acid that we need to digest our food. So this makes it so we don't have as much stomach acid in there in the long run, and we can end up actually with nutrient deficiencies and issues with our digestion because our food isn't being broken down properly. Of course, every single thing that is happening up here in our digestive system is also affecting our gut microbiome as we go down. And something that I've noticed that is not talked about a lot is there's a chain reaction, like a domino effect of events that happen when food hits your mouth. You start to secrete the gastric acid, and from there it activates your pancreas to release enzymes, and then from there you have bile that is supposed to be released from the gallbladder to help us digest our fats. When we get interruptions in this process, or an event is taken out from the timeline or something is dysregulated, you better believe that there's going to be an impact on our gut microbiome. Picture this happening regularly. Whatever is happening on a regular basis, that is going to build our health. Wrapping this all up, the way to stop interrupting your gut healing journey is to remove as many instigators as possible. Let me know which one of these surprised you the most, or if you would add something to this list. I invite you to like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe to this channel for more like this. We'll see you next time.